We'll talk.
I'll call on you in a minute, okay? I'll call on you in a minute for the invocation. Let's go ahead and call the meeting to order tonight, please. This is Thursday, July 17th, in our regular council meeting. If you would, please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance and remain standing for the invocation.
May we bow? Father, we thank you for this evening. We thank you for all the beautiful weather that you've given us, for all the people that are here and those that are not here. Please watch over them. We ask that you be with us throughout this meeting and help us make the right decisions. And we ask that you be with our nation at this time when there's turmoil all around the world. All these things we pray in your name. Amen.
Amen. Okay, I'd like to welcome everyone here tonight, and we'll begin by asking the council for consideration to approve the agenda. I believe Mr. Ingram has a change to the agenda.
Yes, if it pleases the mayor and council, management would like to add an item to old business. If you recall, this item was on new business on the July 3rd agenda, and it was management's error that we failed to put this on the old business for consideration tonight. This is to be discussion of the Marietta Road Waterline Project and a request to approve the recommended bid and grant the mayor authorization to sign the contract once approved by the city attorney.
Okay, Mr. Huffman.
Yes, I would like to add something to old business. I want to discuss a August 7th date for a budget hearing.
August 7th?
Yeah, I'd like to discuss that in old business.
Okay. Mr. Ingram's change will be E and F. You want to discuss August the 7th as budget hearing date? Okay. Any other changes? If not, I'll entertain a motion to approve the agenda as amended.
So moved.
Have a second.
Second.
Those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Tell you what, we may want to, we need to vote on that on this. Let's go back. Give us a little more practice anyway. I got
Need
used
to
to doing
practice.
that. Go ahead if you would and cast your vote on your machine here. All members voted? Okay. All members voting in favor of the motion. Thank you. Okay. We have in your package there the minutes from July 3rd, 2014 and July 3rd, 2014 council minutes. Are there any changes or corrections to be made to those? Ms. McGrew?
On the council meeting minutes, the interim city manager Cummings announced that a proposed budget would be submitted to council on June 3rd. He wanted to change that to July 3rd,
Okay.
and I asked the date of June 7th to be changed to July 7th. So he made the first correction, I made the second.
Okay.
And in the minutes it says...
It doesn't reflect that.
No,
Okay.
I did both corrections.
Do you have those?
The minutes from the last meeting in June, I corrected those already.
Okay.
Because they were approved as amended, I amended them, they've been signed by me.
Okay.
Is that what you mean?
Are they not corrected in your package there?
They're not in the package, they're from June.
Oh, okay.
What's in the package is July
Is it correct for you, sir?
I believe it is.
Okay, good. Okay, are any other changes or corrections to be made? If not, I entertain a motion to approve the minutes of July 3rd public hearing minutes and the July 3rd council minutes.
So moved.
So,
Have a motion and a
Second.
second. Any other discussion? Okay, you may proceed to vote. Has everyone voted? Okay. All members voting in favor of the motion. Thank you. Under the 10-minute public input period, we did not have anyone to sign up to speak tonight. Item 7 under our agenda is the consent agenda, and I will read each of the items that are included on the consent agenda. And if any of you have questions or concerns about any of those or would like further discussion, just let me know and we'll pull it off and discuss it later. Approval of payment of Bluff's maintenance fees per the agreement that we were provided with. Item B, approval to reject Canton Creek Bridge repair bid and rebid that project. Approval of the GDOT roads list. This was the speed limit list. Item D, approval for heavy contractors to work beyond normal business hours on construction of the wastewater treatment plant. Item E, the second reading and approval of the ordinance and discussion of the Planning Commission recommendation for case number Z 1404-001. Andy Lawson's request to rezone property from RE residential estate to C2 general commercial at 9181 Knoxbridge Highway. Item F, second reading and approval of Central City redevelopment plan as amended to include the Sandy Hook Plaza area. Item G, second reading and approval of request for a beer and wine pouring license by Christy Jones for Uncle Matteo's Pizza Joint at 2026 Cumming Highway, Suite 104. Item H, approval of resolution adopting revised stormwater utility credit manual. It's attachment 3 in your agenda package. And item I, second reading and approval of stormwater utility ordinance amendment. That's attachment 4. Item J, approval of November 4th, 2014 special called election. This is the election that is a result of the resignation of Mr. Cummins from the City Council. So a special election will be held in conjunction with the general election on November 4th? 4th, okay. Are there any of those items that you would like removed for further discussion? If not, then you may proceed to vote. Oh,
motion to accept.
you got a motion and a second. Okay, proceed to vote. Has everyone voted? Okay. All members voting in favor. Okay. All right. Under old business, we have a couple of items there. We have two positions or slots on the CID board, Canton Marketplace CID board. We have one position that is designated as a council member and a second position that is designated as any citizen of the city. I am nominating tonight under item A and requesting the appointment of Mr. Dennis Burnett to the Canton Marketplace Community Development CID as the citizen position. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Have a second. Okay. Proceed. Any other discussion? All right. Proceed to vote. Okay, we have, what do we have there? Can you put that back up? We have 2 yes and 3 no. I'd like to ask, under those that are voting no or yes, either one, do you have a reason for voting no? Mr. Huffman, would you like to discuss it or not?
No, I don't wish to discuss it at the moment.
Okay. Mr. Goodwin? No. Mr. Rust?
When have I not had anything to say? I love the man. He's a wonderful man, but I'm voting no.
Okay. Then we still have Ms. Fowler as occupying that slot. Thank you. Under the council member position, I'm nominating Sandy McGrew to the Canton Marketplace CID. Do we have a motion to appoint Ms. McGrew to that board?
So moved.
Do we have a second? Okay. Then the motion dies for lack of a second. Would anyone like to explain their particular vote? Okay. Then there's apparently no reason. It's just no. Okay. Next item on the agenda will be item, so the city will go at this point without either slot being filled on the CID board. The next item is the update on the issuance of the Canton Building Authority revenue bonds. Our CFO, Nathan Ingram, will handle that.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. I've been notified this morning that our bids that were placed out last week for the possible refunding of the bonds, there's been some positive feedback from some of the institutions, financial institutions on that. We plan on, those are required back by July 31st, so we anticipate having something to Mayor and Council on that date, because looking ahead, we're going to ask that possible action be taken at the first meeting, which I believe is August 7th. So we'll get some of that information to Mayor and Council as soon as we have that available.
Okay. Anyone have a question there? Okay. Item D, update on the council chamber sound system and possibility of using wireless lapel microphones. Ms. Ways? You need a microphone?
Recently, we've acquired quotes from a few acoustical engineers in the field that are actual engineers that are in the engineering field. We're waiting on one other quote to come in and do an acoustical study in this room to help give us recommendations to help fix some of the acoustical issues we are having. We are also looking at switching out y'all's microphones. We're going to hopefully be getting some demo lapel mics to try to see if that'll fix your problems and help the sound. But that's going to come at a cost. Preliminary costs are showing around $17,600 to switch those out. That's going to come with some programming because the current Titan system that we have is not compatible with lapel microphones. So we have to go with additional soundboards in addition to more equipment. But again, all of this is preliminary. We're still looking at different options that are out there.
Anyone have a question?
Yes.
Okay.
$17,000 to upgrade this?
17.
And-
17.
And is it going to cost us anything to just make the study?
The study will cost approximately $1,500. Again, I'm still waiting on one more engineer to give me pricing.
Can the citizens hear us now?
Right here, I got mine.
Okay.
I got mine.
Mr. Goodwin?
I want to know if there's anything further been done about the study for the acoustics. The study for the acoustics, has anything else been done about that? Because that seems to be, we got reverberation all over this thing. It's an echo, the whole thing is.
Honestly, I believe that acoustical study should have been done at the beginning of this project, and it was not.
I understand that, but we had this done, and I know that we talked about this. Has there been any further efforts toward that?
Well, I think there's,
Any further efforts toward?
you have someone that is looking at the overall problem, don't you? Not just the
Yes,
lapel
the
mics.
problem is not just acoustics. That is part of the problem.
That's
The
part
other
of it.
part of the problem is the microphones and how you guys are speaking into them. And it's not that it's a problem how you're speaking into them. The microphones, you need to be close up to the microphones, whereas that dais is not necessarily designed for you guys to be close up to it.
Thank you.
Mr. Huffman?
So we can hear you fine, though. So what's the difference between that mic and this mic?
I'm speaking within an inch and a half of the microphone.
I am speaking more than a minute.
And see, I just heard you better.
Mr. Best?
Camille, last night I was at the UDC meeting and Mark was a part of that committee. Mark Robart was there. When on the way out I got a chance to talk to him and he said the thing you have to practice is speaking 2 inches from the microphone, which I'm trying to do right now, directly into the microphone, 2 inches from the microphone, and don't move. It takes practice.
It takes
That's
a lot of practice.
$17,000. If the acoustics are not the main issue, maybe we can wait a few months and keep trying, because I'd like to
I will
not-
simply ask to look at the pricing to switch out the microphones to lavaliers. If you guys don't want to do that, this is completely your decision, but it is an option that you guys have. And I would like to think that we would sincerely do the acoustical study, because I think that if we go ahead and switch out to lapel mics, we're adding to the problem. We need to fix the problem in this room first, and then bring in the new microphones. And we're also going to demo these before we even purchase them, because there is no sense in spending that money on something that will not work.
I just can't see spending another $17,000. We've got to learn how to speak into these mics. I just can't see. We spent so much on this place. $17,000 just seems like an awful lot of money for this.
I tend to agree with you. It does sound like a lot. I do think we ought to know what the problem is, because I don't know how well you can hear tonight. It's probably not as good as it ought to be, but can you hear most of it? Okay. Sort of echoing. Sounds like we're talking. Yeah. What's that?
Talking in a tunnel. Like we're talking in a tunnel.
Yeah.
We are.
So I think something's got to be done. So I suspect we ought to go ahead and continue to look at that and maybe try it. I mean, I think we could try something like that without doing the whole buying into the whole project and then it not working, couldn't we?
I agree. That's why I think that doing the acoustical study should be first, because the echoing that they're hearing is because of all the hard surfaces in this room. The sound is literally bouncing, and it has nowhere to absorb.
Okay. Anyone else have a question? Mr. Grant?
I think one of the other critical issues we need to look at in that scenario is the audio on the online streaming council meetings, which...
That will also be addressed once we get the sound addressed, because the sound here is the same sound that they're hearing, but the echo is more prevalent in that because of the
I think
streaming.
it's worse, so thank you.
Okay. Yes, sir.
I just had one more comment. I think the approach of getting the acoustical study first before we spend another dime at $1,500, that makes a lot of sense, because you could spend $17,000 and still have an issue. So it takes
You're only-
first thing.
Yes,
Yeah.
at that point, if you guys choose to spend this money first, you're adding to the problem instead of helping the
Then
problem.
evaluate the microphones after that.
Absolutely.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Camille, very much. Next item, item E, CAM contracting. Oh, I'm sorry. Who do we have?
May I ask, are the problems we're having different from problems the Baptist Church had? Has anyone asked them how they solved the problem? Because I can imagine the parishioners being in church and not being able to hear for all those years. Did they have similar problems? How did they solve them?
It's a good question. I don't know. Anyone know?
And notice I was speaking into my thumb.
The Baptists never had a problem with speaking.
Or hearing. Are you, Mr. Russ? No. Okay. Anyone else? That's a very good point, because I wondered that myself. But next item, CAM contracting approval. This is the Marietta Road water line bid that we, I believe, talked about at the last meeting, but we didn't actually have the actual dollar bid amounts at that time. The bids have been opened, and CAM contracting is recommended by the staff to be approved at
$220,732.75.
Okay. Everybody got that? 200 and... Say that again.
$220,732.75.
75. $220,732.75, and that's replacing the water line where we're doing the Livable Center LCI project up Marietta Road there, up Copper Mine Hill. Okay. Question. So what we need...
Is a motion.
And just a question for Mr. Ingram to remind us again how this is being funded, the source of funding for this.
This will be out of the water and sewer fund.
Okay.
All right. Next item, Mr. Huffman, you want to talk about...
Do you want to make a motion to approve that? We need to
Yeah, I
approve
guess
that.
we better go ahead and do that.
I'll make
you make the motion. Who's
I'll
second?
make a motion to approve the contract and have the mayor sign it.
In the amount of $220,732.75.
Second motion.
We got a motion and a second. Any other discussion? If not, go ahead and vote. Everyone voted? Okay. Okay. All members voting for the motion. Thank you. And the next item, Mr. Huffman, is the budget hearing date of August the 7th. You want to talk about that?
Yeah, just briefly, that the budget has been progressing quite well, and we do have some deadlines that we need to meet. They're not mandatory, but we want to meet what we think we should do, and that would require us to put a August 7th date for a hearing, a budget hearing, as well as authorize the advertising of the budget for those hearings, the appropriate advertising to go in the paper. So I'd like to make a motion that we accept the August 7th date to have that move forward.
I have a motion. I have a second.
Second.
Any other questions or discussion? Okay, if not, you can proceed to vote. I guess we better do a voice vote on this one since it was not on the agenda. Okay. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. All members voting for the motion. Okay. Under new business, we have the approval of application for the Georgia Department of Economic Development Tourism Division and Georgia Council for the Arts Grant. Nathan, do you have comments about that?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Our policy requires that we receive council approval before we take any grant application, before we issue any grant application. This is a grant, forgive me for not knowing the exact amount, I think it's around $10,000 to $15,000 for, as it mentioned, signage improvements, et cetera, throughout the city of Canton. This, Miss Megan, our Main Street Director, she will be coordinating this application, and we're asking council approval so that we can go ahead and issue that application.
Okay, Mr. Huffman.
I had some questions that we were talking about at the last meeting, that the potential of doing studies of the city or overall plan, and that we discussed the fact that if we did that, do we want to make these signs before we come back with some of the recommendations that where we might be having to redo the signs, or the signs would just be there for a short time and then be obsolete?
My guess is we would have that study done before we know whether we get that grant or not anyway. So, I mean, it'd probably behoove us to go ahead and make that application, at least in my opinion, and then have it folded over into that other program. Because I don't think we're going to make the grant is just going to give us the funds to do the study and I assume and develop what kind of signs we're going to have there, which should be connected to the overall downtown development plan.
Could I ask Mr. Patton or Mr. Thomas if that, would we have such a study done in a time limit that
You don't know.
we would get the signs at a later date? Is that coordinated well, or?
Councilman Huffman, we believe that that study could be completed in time for any other Councilman Huffman, we do believe that this grant application, if the city is awarded, that this study would be done and completed before any other comprehensive plan were to be completed as part of a downtown master plan.
Is there a particular time, if we were awarded that grant, that we'd have to spend it?
Usually most of these grants are within a year or something of that nature. We expect that if the grant is approved and the city receives funding, once the consultant does that study, it would be about a 60-day process in regards to preparing the study for the wayfinding signage.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other comments? Questions?
Mayor and Council, I just want to reiterate that this is just to approve the application.
Okay. Just to approve the application. All right. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Have a second.
Second.
All right. I have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? If not, proceed to vote. Everyone's voted. All members voting for the motion. Thank you. Okay. We have basically, I think that's pretty much. Sure, go ahead, Mr. Rust.
I'm going to make a city manager's report. I talked to Glenn on the way over, and he had surgery today, and he's doing fine. So I just thought I'd throw that in. It's nice to hear him. His voice sounded good, so I was happy to hear he's doing good. Thank you.
Good. Anyone else? Mr. Huffman, you got anything? Can you turn your light out? Okay. Okay. I would announce too that, of course, it's been in the paper and so forth. The Ethics Investigative Committee did meet, yet there were some public notice problems, to say the least, with that meeting. So our city attorney and I believe some of the members have indicated they're going to hold another meeting, and it will be well in advance of so that the public has plenty of notice to if they choose to attend. Okay. Any other comments, questions? If not, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Have a second. All right, proceed to vote. Let's see this one. Oh, okay. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. All members voting for the motion. Thank you. Quick meeting.